Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are still in the chapter Knowledge by Identity and Separative Knowledge, page 563. We went through this on Saturday, and we did the summary as well. And now we will go line by line.
So, he is discussing the subliminal, still continuing. This is on the side of consciousness. On the side of action of the cosmic energies, it is seen that they move in masses, waves, currents, constantly constituting and reconstituting beings and objects, movements and happenings, entering into them, passing through them, forming themselves in them, throwing themselves out from them on other beings and objects. So, he has put in a lot of stuff into one sentence.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So, let's look at it. So, he has been examining on the consciousness side, that is knowledge. When you enter into the intraconscient, your knowledge becomes much wider and more detailed than when you are in the level 1 of your body-mind life. Now he is saying, but what about power? There are always 3 things. One is the substance of everything. At every level, there is a substance. And that substance has consciousness as well as power and also Ananda. But Ananda is not discussing here now. He has discussed consciousness, how much the knowledge increases. And now he is saying, what about the power aspect, the action? So on the side of action, the cosmic energies, it is seen that they move in masses, waves, currents, constantly constituting and reconstituting beings and objects, movements and happenings, entering into them, passing through them, forming themselves in them, throwing themselves out from them on other beings and objects. Let's look at this a little carefully. We'll take first of all the physical world, because it is very easy for us to understand what he's saying at the physical level. There is matter. There is a sea of matter. Normally you consider sea as something in movement and flexible, but even matter is a sea. It is not moving much like the life plane of consciousness. The life plane moves much more. Okay? So what is matter doing? It is, in fact, all objects in the physical world are formed by matter. Your body is formed by matter. My body is formed by matter. This house is formed by matter. So matter is coming, erecting a house through human beings, but it is nature. Human beings also are part of nature. So matter is creating forms, creating bodies, creating mountains, trees, as well as small insects. So all this, and it's going on changing. It creates something, destroys it. Creates another, destroys it. So this is the description he's giving.
So share a little bit about reconstituting beings.
Yes. For instance, your body is there. After 15, 20 years, I don't know if you're going to live after 15, 20 years, but the matter of your body will be reconstituted into another body. And that body may not be a human being. It could be any body. It goes into the vast ocean of matter and is used again for creating another body. That's what he's saying. Now this example of matter is reproduced in the life plane as well as the mind plane. All these are seas one on top of the other, and they are constantly moving and making forms, destroying them, making one form and throwing on another. I am now talking to you. My form is entering into you, and your form also will enter into me. It's going on. And sometimes we are destroying, sometimes we are reconstituting. That's what he's saying.
But reconstituting the matter of the body.
Yes.
Not the soul.
No.
Not the spirit.
No. The soul is not reconstituted.
Matter. Okay.
Only these. He is talking only of the 3 planes. Okay? And when you go to the intraconscient, all of these are there. So in the power aspect, this is what you see. Movement of the substance. Okay, so.
Is the wave-particle dualism part of this?
You'll have to repeat to me what it is.
There's wave particles, dualism.
Yeah. In physics,
Wave particles?
dualism. In physics, we have a wave-particle dualism.
Yeah.
It means the substance can be a wave or it can be something solid.
Yes.
Yeah?
It can be of consciousness, it can be of substance, particles, it can also be ananda. Science has not gone beyond the particles, but it's also consciousness and also power. Science, all scientific knowledge is mentally constructed theories, not the real spiritual knowledge of sight. You are actually seeing the sight. So far it is correct. All the particles are coming and moving about, creating forms and destroying forms. So this is so look at each word. They move in masses, waves, currents, constantly constituting and reconstituting beings and objects, movements and happenings. Okay, entering into them, passing through them, forming themselves in them, and throwing themselves out from them on other beings and objects. So
Interesting. Out from them on other beings.
yes,
Yeah.
your thoughts are coming into me, my thoughts are going into you unconsciously, but we have the power in the intraconscious to
Know them.
know them and admit whatever you want to admit and refuse what you want to refuse. Okay, so then you can become master of your own. Suppose you had the habit of anger, it's coming from outside. If you are in the intraconscious, you have the power to stop the anger. So you become much more conscious and much more powerful in your own dealings with others.
But Sri Aurobindo also says that you can watch it coming, going back, going through.
Yes, that's right.
You don't have to stop
Yeah,
it, but you can watch it going through.
without changing you, it goes through you.
Exactly. Yes.
That's right. There are so many combinations possible. Okay? Yeah. You can even think of the let's say the air. It is substance air, but anyway. So this air is blowing, sometimes there is static, sometimes there is gentle breeze, sometimes becoming a tornado, sometimes it's becoming a cyclone. Okay? And then when it is heated, it goes up. All sorts of these things, every movement is possible. So, next sentence. Each natural individual is a receptacle of these cosmic forces and a dynamo for their propagation. Now, this is interesting. Each natural individual. So, natural individual, he is talking of in nature. And where is nature? Matter, life and mind. This is nature. So, in nature, each individual is a receptacle, is receiving these forces, but also creating forces and broadcasting them.
Yes.
Okay? So that's what he's saying. Each natural individual is a receptacle of these cosmic forces and a dynamo for their propagation. So when it is coming, it may enter into you or pass through you, but when it enters into you, you can also become, you have the power to propagate them again. So all these things are possible. A thought comes into my mind and I find it a fantastic thought. I publish it. It becomes, it propagates in the world. Everybody now knows about it. Okay, so, there passes from each to each a constant stream of mental and vital energies. Now that's interesting because all scientific fields, they do research papers. Medicine, whatever experience they have, they put it into the research paper and this is spread to everybody. Otherwise, if they know what's happening in one corner, then they may feel that I have a similar case and then they can understand and expand. So this propagation is very interesting. So the propagation is happening earlier, 200, 300 years ago, very slowly. But now with the internet, immediately you know what's happening elsewhere. So it's very, very useful. If you know what's happening elsewhere, maybe you are having the same experience.
Yes, I have had quite a bit of contact with it in horticulture, because someone in India is naming a plant and someone in Brazil is naming the same plant.
Yeah.
So who has the authority and who has the synonym?
The naming is not important, but the characteristics of the plant is important.
Yes.
The naming is a
No,
very-
botanical name.
botanical name.
Latin name.
Yeah. But that also is only a name, no?
It's only a name.
It doesn't change the plant.
No.
Yeah.
But that's where Mother comes in and takes us so much
Yeah.
higher. Yes.
Now, each natural individual is a receptacle of these cosmic forces and a dynamo for their propagation. So it's not only a receiving station, it's also a broadcasting station. Each individual, not only individual, each thing, object also. Okay? We may wonder how an object can also propagate. But remember that even semi-precious stones, if you put some force into it, it
Vibrates.
vibrates and emanates
Yes.
these forces. When mother is making a blessings packet, okay, the force that she puts in is coming out. And if you put it in your pocket, it will protect you. So it is also emanating. Those things which are static, don't think that they are not broadcasting and they are not sending out waves. They do everything. Not only human beings and animals, but even inanimate objects also do that. So, and dynamo for their propagation. There passes from each to each a constant stream of mental and vital energies. We were discussing only physical, but mental energies also and vital energies also are going all the time. That's why Mother says that these things are contagious. You must keep good company. If you don't keep good company, then the influences of others enter into you. So they can be much more contagious than even physical contagion.
And beware of the opposite.
Yes, that's right. So, vibrations, in the form of vibrations, they enter into you. So, mental and vital energies, and these run too in cosmic waves and currents, no less than the forces of physical nature. So, all this action is veiled from our surface mind's direct sense and knowledge, but it is known and felt by the inner being. So, inner being, intraconscient or subliminal. So, when you are there, you can know and see all these forces coming. Okay? Though only through a direct contact. Okay. So, he is saying, when you are in the intraconscient, yes, you can see these forces, but only through a direct contact, not identity. When he says only, he means not identity, but direct contact. In other words, it is still your thought, not my thought. In the physical world, your thought is your thought, I have no inkling about it.
Correct.
So only if you manifest it and speak about it, I'll come to know. But in the intraconscient, your thought I can see clearly, you don't need to speak it to me. I can see it. But it is your thought, not mine. That's what it means by only direct, not identity. Okay? So, but it is known and felt by the inner being, though only through a direct contact. Okay? So when he's saying that, only through a direct contact, it seems to be a positive sentence, but actually it is negative meaning. Meaning that it is not identity.
Is it still a separative knowledge?
Separative knowledge is at the lowest level.
Yeah.
But this is the intraconscient is direct. Direct but separative.
Okay, got it. Second level.
Yeah, second level.
Yeah.
At the highest level, identity. All this action is veiled from our surface mind's direct sense and knowledge, but it is known and felt by the inner being, though only through a direct contact. When the being enters into the cosmic consciousness, it is still more widely, inclusively intimately aware of this play of cosmic forces. Okay? Because when you are in the intraconscient or the subliminal, you need not necessarily be in the cosmic consciousness. So when you are in the cosmic consciousness, you become even more of a dynamo, and you are more capable of receiving all these things in a more accurate manner. So, but although the knowledge is then more complete, the dynamization of this knowledge can only be partial. So what does he mean? He means that in the intraconscient, you are aware of the forces coming and you have a direct contact. But to bring that power down into the physical world is not so easy. So, I may know the knowledge, I may know the method of changing things here. I may know how to do it, I know the theory, but actual practice is not very easy to do it.
I have this letter from Mother to Jyoti Priya, where she says, "To you who have realized your soul, you still don't have that power to change."
Ah, she said that.
Yeah.
That means it must have been either the self or the psychic being. Exactly. So that's exactly what Srinath is trying to do, get the power to change by going to the third level. Okay, so of this knowledge can only be partial. So in other words, when you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, some amount of power is there. Okay, some amount of power is there to change yourself. You become purer, you become much more, your character changes, but the body does not change very easily. Nor the vital. Vital also remains largely what it is. The dynamization of the knowledge can only be partial. For while a fundamental static unification with the cosmic self is possible, the active dynamic unification with cosmic nature must be incomplete. So when you go to the spiritual planes of the intraconscient, your power is limited. To get the full power to change, you have to go to third level. So, must be incomplete. On the level of mind and life, even with the loss of the sense of a separate self-existence, the energisms must be, in their very nature, a selection through individualization. So let's look at this sentence and see what he's saying. On the level of mind and life, at our level, mind and life level, what happens? Even with the loss of the sense of separate self-existence. In other words, when you are in the intraconscient, your ego has gone. You don't feel yourself to be separate from others. Even with that, the power to change is limited. That's what he's saying. So even from the spiritual planes, the power is limited. Okay, so and also what he's saying is very interesting. He's saying the energisms must be in their very nature a selection through individualization. So there I know I can see the cosmic force. But when I try to use that cosmic force, it becomes individual and limited. That's what he's saying, through individualization. Okay, so individual formation of it. In the living dynamo remains the method of its working. So on that, we read that sentence again. On the level of mind and life, even with the loss of the sense of separate self-existence. In other words, you are in the spiritual plane of consciousness. The energisms, the forces that are coming into you, must be in their very nature a selection through individualization. There is a vast power, cosmic power, but when it comes here, it will become individual, therefore necessarily limited.
Yes, we don't have that wideness.
Power you don't have.
Exactly.
For that complete power, you have to go higher and higher and higher and higher. Of the living dynamo remains the method of his working. For the very use of the dynamo of individuality is to select, to concentrate and formulate selected energies and throw them out in formed and canalized currents. So, he is talking of the individual. Suppose you have reached the spiritual plane of consciousness, okay? You don't have access to everything and everything. You have only some, he has used the word crevices and portholes.
Crannies.
Yeah. So some amount of, you have one aspect of knowledge, one aspect of power you can have. Those you can use, but very limited. It's not, because you are selecting the vast force that is there, you are selecting one aspect and using, making small form. To concentrate, to formulate selected energies and throw them out in formed and canalized currents. So, I'll give you an example. Okay. Mother once was not very well, okay, and Sri Aurobindo was watching, and her illness was going on, she mostly bedridden, okay. Many doctors came and they said, it is a heart problem, it is this problem, that problem. And Sri Aurobindo could not do anything because the diagnosis was not correct.
The
diagnosis was not correct.
Right.
So for him to act, he must know that I'll tell you why. So he called one doctor from there, who was Tarun Banerjee's grandfather. He was known as the doctor. He had a long beard, and he was called twice. So when he came, he looked at mother, and he said, it's not the heart, it's the gout problem in the knee. Okay, she was mostly immobile on the bed. As soon as Sri Aurobindo came to know the source of the problem, now he can concentrate his selected power and put it there. You get the point? Yes. So he has power, but he doesn't know where to use it. So for that he needs a diagnosis. When he is curing people also in Pondicherry, from Pondicherry, he wants accurate symptoms. Then he knows where to concentrate his power. He has a knife, but where is it to use it? So this is what it means by selection. So you are in the spiritual consciousness, but you have got only selection of power. You don't have the full power. So for that you need extra information. You need exactly what the problem is, then you can focus. Okay? It is something like, someone asked Sri Aurobindo, you say that the mother is always present. Remember, behave as though the mother is always present, for she is indeed always present. I have not used the exact words.
Yeah, I remember them in the dining room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always behave.
As if the mother was looking at you.
Yes.
For indeed she is always present.
That's right. So someone asked Sri Aurobindo, what do you mean by she is always present everywhere? Does she know what's happening to me when I'm eating this? Does she know what he has done when he has gone to the picnic? So Sri Aurobindo says, you have to understand something. When I say that we know everything, it doesn't mean to say that I know what Lloyd George had for breakfast,
yes,
or Winston Churchill told his servants.
I remember that.
So for that, you have to concentrate. You have to take your knowledge, concentrate it, and then find out what Winston told his servant, then you'll know. So selection and concentration. Now it's clear. People think that when you have the spiritual content, power, you have power, you can do anything you want. No, you can't. You can only use it when you have got knowledge and it is directed towards a particular action. Right. So as soon as Sri Aurobindo knew the symptoms, he was able to cure mother, and in 2 days she was okay. Now, another case where information was not given, Poonam Chand. Poonam Chand was the one who had received the letters which are reproduced as chapters in The Mother. The book The Mother,
yes.
Particularly on money. That letter was sent to him because he had the work of collecting money for the ashram. So then Sri Aurobindo wrote something, because some reports are coming that it was not being done very correctly. Okay? So he wrote this on money. Otherwise it seems funny that in the chapter on The Mother, suddenly there should be about money. Why is this coming in? They were all, they were collected and put together for the book, The Mother, small book. Okay? So Here's the case. So he had a problem with the knee. So Sri Aurobindo said, I will cure you, but give me accurate information, accurate symptoms. So he went to Madras and he consulted other doctors. Then the other doctors said, no, this is spiritual, all, you do it this way. And they told him to do some things, which Sri Aurobindo did not know. So when Sri Aurobindo came to know that he is going to others and done exactly what he has not given the information to Sri Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo said, now I am not responsible. I can't do anything for you because you have not given me the information and you have gone away from my field of protection. So finally he had to lose his leg, they had to amputate his leg. So now you can see exactly what Sri Aurobindo means by individual formation and living dynamo remains the method of his working.
Yes.
This is what is meant. Okay? So, for the very use of the dynamo of individuality is to select, to concentrate and formulate selected energies and throw them out in formed and canalized currents. It has to be directed to a particular thing. Otherwise it won't be effective. Okay? The flow of a total energy would mean that this dynamo had no further use. Okay? So the flow of a total energy, if the total energy can do limited works, then you don't need individuals. And this is interesting because another way of looking at it also is very interesting. The divine is not working directly in the physical world. His knowledge is infinite, his consciousness is infinite. But in the physical world, there are finite aims and objects to be done. So, if you use your infinite consciousness for doing something finite, it won't work out. So, the divine has to work through finite beings here. So, he does not work directly here. He works through his deputies, he works through nature. Because nature is limited. The best example of that is a story which is very useful. These stories are very useful to understand. So, the Gita says the divine does not do everything directly in the physical world. It is nature does. Nature is doing it for the divine. But nature is limited and so it is effective.
But nature is the divine mother in a limited...
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it creates individuals.
Yes.
So, there is a story of a chap who is drowning in the sea. A ship comes, sees him. You remember that story?
Yes.
Now that is very illustrative of this principle.
Yes.
So one ship comes, goes away, another ship comes, he refuses. Finally he dies, and when he dies he goes to God and says, what did you do? I was depending on you to come and save me. Why didn't you come and save me? He said, I sent you 3 ships. So he is acting through individual formations in the physical world. That is the implication of all this para here. Okay? His force is infinite. So he has to limit his force here to make it appropriate to the work to be done here in a limited manner. Okay? So now Srimad is saying the flow of a total energy would mean that this dynamo had no further use. The dynamo is the individual. But if the vast consciousness can do everything in a vast way, then individuals are not required. That's what he's saying. Could be abolished or put out of action. Instead of an activity of individual mind, life, body, there would be only an individual but impersonal center or channel through which the universal forces would flow unimpeded and unselective. So, when you are in the cosmic consciousness and your consciousness is vast, these things flow through you and come down and do their physical work here in a limited manner. But you have become a channel for these vast forces to come. Okay, so that's what he's saying. The flow of total energy would mean that this dynamo had no further use, could be abolished or put out of action. Instead of an activity of individual mind, life, body, there would be only an individual but impersonal center, no limitation, no ego, or channel through which the universal forces would flow unimpeded and unselective. There will be no selection. They're just going through you. Okay. This can happen, but it would imply a higher spiritualization far exceeding the normal mental level. In the static seizure of the cosmic knowledge by identity, the subliminal, universalized, may feel itself one with the cosmic self and the secret self of all others. But the dynamization of that knowledge would not go farther than a translation of the sense of identity into a greater power and intimacy of direct contact of consciousness with all, a greater, more intimate, more powerful and efficient impact of the force of consciousness on things and persons, a capacity too of an effective inclusion and penetration of a dynamized, intimate vision and feeling and other powers of cognition and action proper to this larger nature.
One sentence.
Yeah, big sentence. So, he's saying that you get the knowledge, but if you want this knowledge to be effective, that large knowledge to be effective, you have to go even further up. He's saying, the subliminal may feel itself one with the cosmic self and the secret self of all others. But the dynamization of that knowledge would not go farther than a translation of this sense of identity into a greater power and intimacy of direct contact of consciousness with all, a greater, more intimate, more powerful and efficient impact of the force of consciousness of things. You have to go even higher up. That's what he's saying. Okay? So this is a para which he has explained so clearly.
We can do this small para.
In the subliminal, therefore, even enlarged into the cosmic consciousness, we get a greater knowledge, but not the complete and original knowledge. Very clear. To go farther and see what the knowledge by identity is in its purity, and in what way and to what extent it originates, admits, and uses the other powers of knowledge, we have to go beyond the inner mind and life and subtle physical to the two other ends of the subliminal. Interrogate the subconscious and contact or enter into the superconscious. So once you go to subliminal, you are in the middle. But you have to find out the nature of the inconscient as well as the subconscious, the superconscious. In the middle, your power is limited. That's what he's saying. Okay? To go further and see what the knowledge by identity is in its purity, and in what way and to what extent it originates, admits or uses the other powers of knowledge, we have to go beyond the inner mind and life and subtle physical to the two other ends of the subliminal. Interrogate the subconscious and contact or enter into the superconscious. Interrogate the subconscious means find out its nature, what it is. In a letter to Narad, he is saying that I am digging deep and God's labor.
God's labor, yes. I have been digging deep and long.
Yeah, so he is interrogating the subconscious and clearing it up. And he says, I have got my Einsteinian formula. I have understood something about matter. Finding out of the subconscious. So, interrogate subconscious and contact or enter into the superconscious. But in the subconscious, all is blind and obscure universalism, such as is seen in the mass consciousness. An obscure individualism, either abnormal to us or ill-formed and instinctive. Here in the subconscious, a dark knowledge by identity, such as we find already in the inconscious, is the basis. But it does not reveal itself and its secret. The superior superconscious ranges are based upon the spiritual consciousness, free and luminous, and it is there that we can trace the original power of knowledge and perceive the origin and difference of the two distinct orders, knowledge by identity and separative knowledge. Sri Aurobindo is an explorer. So he has come now to the middle of the intraconscient and is saying, power is not full. So where should I go? Should I go here? Should I go there? Should I go here? Should I go to subconscient? Should I go to the superconscient? He is exploring. And he says, we explore the subconscient and find that it is darkness. So it won't help me. I can't see anything. So let me go up. So he goes there and finds that yes, now you can understand more about the knowledge by identity and separative knowledge. Otherwise, why is he bringing in the subconscient? He is an explorer. He is examining, he is experiencing. That is the characteristic of the Vedantic knowledge. Don't make formations. Go on seeking. Go on seeking and finding out. And what others have sought and found out, don't deny. Be broad-minded. That's the whole attitude of the Vedanta. The other religions are not. They are very fixed in their process. So there should be no fixity at all. He is exploring. So, yeah, a relatively small para. But what this para is very simple, what he is saying. To find out more about knowledge by identity, which is only partial in the intraconscient, you have to go up, further up. I'll read the summary. Yeah. In the subliminal, even when the cosmic consciousness is attained, the knowledge is greater than in the outer nature and much enlarged. Still, it is not the pure knowledge by identity. It is mixed with ignorance. In order to go to the absolute pure identity, we have to go to the two extremes of the subliminal, the superconscient and the superconscient and the subconscient. But the subconscient below is dark, blind. It's a massive semi-conscious, half-formed individuality. We have to go to the superconscient, which is the realm of spiritual light and power and purity, in order to find the source of the knowledge of identity and discover the difference between the identity and the separating knowledge. So knowledge by identity and knowledge by direct but separative, I can find out only when I go higher up. That's what he's saying. In the supreme timeless existence, as far as we know it by reflection in spiritual experience, existence and consciousness are one. We are accustomed to identify consciousness with certain operations of mentality and sense, and where these are absent or quiescent, we speak of that state of being as unconscious. But consciousness can exist where there are no overt operations, no signs revealing it, even where it is withdrawn from objects and absorbed in pure existence or involved in the appearance of non-existence. We'll have to discuss this. It is intrinsic in being, self-existent, not abolished by quiescence, by inaction, by veiling or covering, by inert absorption or involution. It is there in the being, even when its state seems to be dreamless sleep or a blind trance or an annulment of awareness or an absence. In the supreme timeless status, where consciousness is one with being and immobile, it is not a separate reality, but simply and purely the self-awareness inherent in existence. There is no need of knowledge, nor is there any operation of knowledge. Being is self-existent to itself. It does not need to look at itself in order to know itself or learn that it is. But if this is evidently true of pure existence, it is also true of the primal all existence. For just as spiritual self-existence is intrinsically aware of itself, so it is intrinsically aware of all that is in its being. This is not by an act of knowledge formulated in a self-regard, a self-observation, but by the same inherent awareness. It is intrinsically all conscious of all that is by the very fact that all is itself. Thus, conscious of its timeless self-existence, the spirit, the being, is aware in the same way, intrinsically, absolutely, totally, without any need of a look or act of knowledge, because it is all, of time existence and of all that is in time. This is the essential awareness by identity. If applied to cosmic existence, it would mean an essential, self-evident, automatic consciousness of universe by the spirit, because it is everything and everything is its being. So he is describing here the knowledge by identity. And he is saying something very interesting. He is saying the substance and the consciousness is one. We don't think that the stone is conscious. We think only that when life comes in, consciousness comes in. Because there is overt, there are no manifestations of consciousness in a stone. But it is there. But at this level, it is not revealing itself. But at the highest level, the substance and consciousness are the same. There is no difference. So if you exist, you automatically know everything. That's basically what he's saying. Because we are doing something, we are looking at all the words that he's using and identifying the words. So we'll redo this one next time. But today I will just read the summary of this one. Good. Sometimes the summary helps. In the timeless consciousness of the self, remember, when you make your mind silent and go to the self, you are not in time and you are not in space. You are outside. Okay. Sat and Chit are one. Consciousness and substance, the subtlest of substance, are united. There is immutability, no action, because Shakti power is held back and does not move into action. So there is no manifestation. In the physical world, the stone is not acting, so you say no consciousness. But when animals move, you say, there is consciousness. Movement is consciousness. But in the highest, there is no movement. So you would feel that there is no consciousness, but it is consciousness. There is consciousness. There it is full. But in the stone, it is there, but at a very low level. But consciousness is there everywhere. Okay? So here it becomes separated, there it is one. So no. So it says, normally when we speak of consciousness, we understand it to be a reaction, a response to an external stimulus. If such response seems to be absent, as in matter, and partly in vegetal life, we say there is no consciousness. But this is an error. Consciousness is there everywhere. Consciousness is omnipresent, from the highest peaks to the lowest depths. It is present in the superconscient as in the subconscient as well as the inconscient. It is present even in dreamless sleep, in trance and catalepsy. Everywhere it is there, consciousness is there. It is static and sometimes it is dynamic. When it is dynamic, you recognize consciousness. But when it is static, you don't recognize consciousness because you don't see the results. So, in the supreme timeless self, since there is no operation of power, there is no action or reaction, and here consciousness and existence being one and the same, there is no need of knowledge because knower and the known are the same. Spirit is all that exists, so it knows the universe as its own being. This is what we call knowledge by identity. This identity may be described as the one that has itself become the many. The two other modes will be described in the next para. So, knowledge by identity, the other modes of knowledge will be described in the next para.
Thank you.
Okay?
Namaste all.